everybody. So as you can see from the title, this is going to be a bit of an unusual vlog. Now, don't be too scared at this, even though the title says that I have my enthusiasm for Steven Universe is quickly falling. I don't want to get you too alarmed. That just means that there are certain things I must address about it. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna drop it by any means. I'm definitely going to sit it out until the end, even if I at some points would start despising it. And yes, I am using such a rather loaded and heavy word for a reason. There's a reason now. There's a certain thing about Steven Universe that has recently started quite a bit irritating me, and I am quite certain that a lot of people do know what it is, and that is it's the social politics have really infiltrated the creators' minds, or rather, the creators have outright actually stated, if I'm not mistaken, that they are very heavily leaning towards a certain social justice warrior ideologies, and that shows in the story that the show has. And I have not stated my own opinions about this whole matter, which I will probably now have to do, since I am mostly because the whole social justice warriors, the third wave of feminism, and all this kind of regressive left stuff, it mostly has stayed outside of Finland, but unfortunately it has now moved here, and I kinda must address this. Now, yeah, this is gonna be kind of pointless addressing it on the internet, but since it does now affect me, I kinda have to say why I'm being kind of less energetic during the Steven Universe videos, because some of you will watch that. Anyways, I really have been following quite a lot about what has been going on in America and the world just in general, because I don't know, I just prefer to know when the third World War is going to start. And yeah, it's not going to start anytime soon, but you know, when regressive ideas are being pushed in the mainstream media, that's when it starts getting worrisome. However, since that was only being done in America, I was not too worried about that. Well, that changed, and well, let's just say that regressive left ideologies have already infiltrated universities of Finland, and that is worrisome because that brings with it a lot of horrifying possibilities. Mostly social regression, which has already started to take place here, especially with our migrant problem. So, yeah, and Steven Universe unfortunately has very heavy influences from the social justice standpoint. Like, that has affected its storyline heavily, and I doubt that anyone would deny that. Of course, the story still has a lot of good merits to it, and it has a lot of values that are still worth talking about at the very least. And I'm not completely opposed to that. Actually, I'm not at all opposed to that. But those issues are something that it brings out very biasedly and very heavily, and that irks me. That just completely annoys me in a really, really bad way, and ultimately lessens my enjoyment of the show, because it means that the creators are pushing their own ideologies to the market. And while it's always impossible for an artist to detach themselves from their creations, and it's not always bad to express yourself through the art and even your ideologies, but when it's done in such a subversive way, that's when it starts getting troublesome. Now, I was already aware that this was happening during when I was doing Legend of Korra, because that certainly has problems, and the influences of social justice already can be seen there. But I gave it a fair shot, so I did end up enjoying quite a lot of it. Though recently I watched a really, really darn good critique of it, and I accidentally ran into a really, really good critiques of Steven Universe, started watching some of the older episodes again, and yeah, it's not a recent trend that the Steven Universe has been very, very, very heavily influenced by regressive left ideologies, but of course it has become far more pronounced. And that is why my enthusiasm for Steven Universe has become quite a lot lesser than it was at the start of the third season. I wanted to make that clear. I'm gonna make this channel at all political. Those rambles are going to be reserved for that. But so just so you know, because I did a recording of Steven Universe and like in today, and I noticed during editing how unenthusiastic I seemed, and I wanted to explain why. Well, that's about all. I might at some point talk about my own views on these matters, but right now is neither the time nor the place for that. So I thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you can understand why my energy is a bit lacking. And again, no worries, I won't stop the show because I kind of want to see it until the end. And even if it would turn into a train wreck, which I do doubt, I still hold a lot of value for the show. I think it is pretty good. So even if it would turn out to be a train wreck in the end, it will probably be an entertaining train wreck. And I do hold myself as some sort of critic, even if I consider myself to be a bad critic. That's all. Thank you all very much. Ganmu out.